What makes a winning mindset in sports? Well, in today's episode, we're going to discuss what makes up a winning mindset and, most importantly, how you can develop a winning mindset as an athlete. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, a mental performance coach who works with athletes from around the world on building a stronger mental game. Now, through my work with athletes, I've worked to uncover what it really takes to have a winning mindset. Now, a winning mindset will vary from player to player because we are all different. And as I'll discuss later in the episode, we have to really embrace our natural personalities as athletes. But while there are differences in terms of personalities between athletes, there are still key principles that we need to focus on when working to develop a winning mindset. And remember, the reason that it's so important to develop a winning mindset is that once we get to a certain level with our skills, it's not talent that's going to separate us from our competition. It's our mindset. If you don't have a strong mindset, if you're not confident, if you're not focused, no matter how talented you are, you won't be reaching your full potential. And so there are 4 key components or key principles of a winning mindset that I want to discuss today. And the first one is being more process focused. In other words, focusing on how to win instead of simply focusing on how much you want to win. Now, I was working with a tennis player who has been struggling a lot with translating his practice play into tournaments. And one of the statements that he used the other day when we were on a coaching call was, "The more I focus on winning, the less likely I am to win." And this happens a lot to where athletes are so caught up in wanting to win that this turns into unneeded pressure, it turns into anxiety, and it quickly turns into the fear of losing because they want to win so badly. But aren't we discussing a winning mindset? So why is it that thinking about winning and thinking about wanting to win keeps us from doing our best? It's because on a moment-by-moment basis, we need to be focused on what's happening right now during the competition and doing the controllable parts of our game to the best of our abilities in order to position ourselves to win. I talk to a lot of players about seeing the result of your game, so seeing winning or losing as a byproduct of your performance. Now, I know that seems like an obvious thing to say, but when we really check in with ourselves and examine, what am I honestly thinking about going into the game? What am I putting importance onto during the game? Is it the fact that you want to win? Is it the score? Or is it what you're doing right now and the small steps and the parts of your process that you need to execute well in order to win? Athletes who have a winning mindset are focused on how to win more than they're focused on wanting to win. Of course they want to win, but that's also the very reason why you are out there. You're never out there to underperform. You're never out there to want to lose. The reason you're playing is to win. That's why they're keeping score and they're keeping track of how well everybody is doing. So that's the very reason why you're out there. When you want to develop the right mindset to compete, we need to prioritize the process of your game. One of the ways that you can go about prioritizing the process is making a list of all the different controllable parts of your game or the controllable steps that lead to a good performance. And I like to use the term focusing on what puts you in the best position to win. We cannot guarantee wins, but we can guarantee doing the small things that help us win. This will involve focusing on your preparation throughout the week. It'll involve focusing on the process of your game. It'll involve focusing on adjusting during the game. So in other words, it's everything that makes up a winning result. That's what you want to be focused on, and that's one of the key parts of developing a winning mindset. The other component to a winning mindset is developing more of a calm, confident mindset when you play. Now, I was saying earlier that personality has to come into all of this, and we have to address, what's your personality like as an athlete. But no matter what your personality is, if your mind is racing all over the place, and if you doubt yourself, that's not a winning mindset. A winning mindset is one where you believe in yourself, you trust in yourself, and you're able to go out there and play freely as a result of that trust. I like to see confidence as this ability for us to really let go and just play. When I have trust in myself and I believe in my skills, I don't have to try to force a good result. I trust that because I have built these skills, because I have confidence in myself, I can let go, I can play in the moment, play freely, and I'll get the result that I want. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I just wanted to take a quick break to remind you that I do offer one-on-one mental coaching for athletes. It's a 12-week program where we will have weekly coaching sessions. It begins with an assessment, and it also has a workbook that includes exercises for you to go through between our sessions. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I've put a link in the description below. And when an athlete has that level of confidence, it also translates to a calmer mind. And what I mean by a calmer mind is a mind that is focused in the present moment, a mind that's not racing about the future, a mind that's not stuck thinking about past mistakes. Your mind is calm, which allows you to be in the moment and to be present when you play. The third component of a winning mindset is being present. Now, when I was talking about focusing on the process and focusing on how to win, that helps us focus in the present moment, right? Because no matter how badly I want to win, the only way I can influence winning is focusing on what's happening right now. And the reason we want to have confidence and trust in ourselves is because when we trust in ourselves, we then give ourselves permission to just be fully in the moment. The more you play in the present moment, meaning your mind is just fully consumed with what's happening right now, the more likely you are to play in the flow state, and the more likely you are to play your best. So we have to keep this idea of being present at the front of our mind when we are trying to develop a winning mindset. And the last part of developing a winning mindset is understanding your personality. In other words, understanding what really drives you and motivates you to play hard. And I think there are two kind of different categories that athletes can fall into. Now, of course, we start to see some overlap between these two, but I just want to outline these two to help you get a clear idea of maybe which category you fall into. And it's also kind of about the different motivation types, right? Intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So sometimes athletes want to focus on just enjoying themselves, having fun, and relaxing when they play. So sometimes athletes just want to focus on having fun. And when they focus on having fun, enjoying themselves, they're not putting pressure on themselves, they play their best. Other athletes need to be driven more by proving other people wrong and wanting to dominate the competition, so a little bit more of an aggressive mentality. Now, when you're having fun, you're still playing aggressively, you're still giving effort. What I'm referring to here within this component of a winning mindset is the idea of understanding what's my personality and what do I really need to be thinking about and focusing on to get myself to play hard. When athletes focus on having fun, they are still giving effort because they enjoy the act of working hard. They enjoy the act of giving effort. When athletes are focusing on dominating the competition and proving other people wrong, they're still focused in the present moment on what they need to do to win because they're so driven to prove other people wrong that they focus back into the present moment. So this last component of a winning mindset is more about what motivates you to play hard and to play your best. Now, again, there's going to be some overlap and you might have a completely different category in terms of what motivates you. But I include this into a winning mindset because I've come across a lot of players who say their coaches are trying to get them to think about proving other people wrong, but that just turns into a distraction for them because it goes against their personality. But likewise, I've worked with players who, when we talk about just enjoying themselves and having fun, we are missing out on this key competitive fire that they need to have in terms of proving other people wrong. So we have to incorporate that. So that's the last component I want to mention to this winning mindset. Now, just real quick, I want to discuss what are some kind of mental challenges that can get in the way or some mistakes that athletes make when it comes to developing a winning mindset. So one of them is being afraid to lose. I said this earlier when I was talking about focusing on wanting to win instead of how to win. When we think so much about how badly we want to win, that opens the door to us then thinking about how I don't want to lose. And this develops fear. Fear of losing, fear of making mistakes, which turns into more hesitant play, more scared play, and more safe play. So we have to look out and watch out for our minds going from I want to win to I don't want to lose. Another mistake athletes make is having too much negative thinking. When you have a lot of negative thinking, this works against your confidence, and it also makes it more difficult for you to move on from mistakes. And if you're not able to move on from mistakes, you're not able to play in the present moment after mistakes. And then a third, just kind of key challenge to athletes when it comes to developing a winning mindset is focusing too much on results. So you're constantly checking in and adding up in your head what your stats will be like if you keep making mistakes. You are constantly worried about what your coaches think. You're thinking about your team's chances of making playoffs if you all lose today. So when we start to think too much about those results, that takes us out of the present moment. It gets us away from the idea of how do I win? And again, we're starting to think too much about how badly we want to win. Now, with those components being explained and with these common challenges, what can you do to develop a winning mindset for yourself? Well, there are a few steps that you can take. And I think the first step that really, really works to develop a winning mindset is working to create a mindset statement. And this is an exercise I run through with a lot of athletes I work with, where we think about their best games, their worst games, and then we work to create a statement they can review before they play that truly encompasses their mindset that they need to have during competition. Some examples might be my winning mindset involves being in the moment and having fun. Or maybe my winning mindset is feeling confident and feeling calm. Or my winning mindset is focusing on the process and being motivated to prove other people wrong. This statement works to remind you before you play, what do you need to be focused on and what does your mindset need to be in order to play your best. Another thing that you can do is work to create a mental preparation routine. This is where you will incorporate tools like visualization, mindfulness meditation, self-talk to work to generate a confident, calm, and present mindset. And then the third tip that I have for you is to set controllable process goals, both for practices and for games. When you set these goals for practices and games, you are working to create this habit of focusing on how to win instead of just wanting to win. When you piece these together and you continue to work on developing this process focus, working on your confidence by using those mental training tools, you incorporate a pre-game routine or a mental preparation routine. And then lastly, if you have that mindset statement at the front of your mind and you review it before you play, you'll be working to get into a winning mindset over the long term. And the final tip that I want to share with you is that you have to see your entire, mindset and physical game as a continual improvement process. And this is where the idea of a growth mindset comes into all of this. After practices, think about your mistakes, think about how you can learn. After games, reflect on what you did well, and then ask yourself, what do I need to work on after today's game? This will help you see the entire process of your game and of your career as one where you're just working to improve day in and day out. Instead of beating yourself up over mistakes, instead of being afraid and putting too much pressure on yourself going into the next game, we are just working to improve every single day, whether it's a practice or whether it's a game. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you are interested in one-on-one coaching to help you improve your mindset as an athlete, I've put a link to learn more about that in the description below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.